Что ты думаешь по поводу того, что тебя сместили внезапно с первой строчки Pound for Pound?
Ну, это маркетинг. Они делают это специально, чтобы разогреть этот бой. Ну, у людей уже есть интерес к этому. Значит, они делают правильно, и мы будем бороться за первое место в рейтинге.
Is there any headway on Islam, Makhachev, and Jack Della Maddalena if that title fight's going to get booked soon?
I'll let you know when we get it done.
And just kind of piggybacking off that, obviously with Ilia's win, you know, everyone's really excited to potentially see a future fight with him and Islam. I know that's the fight that people wanted. Ilia said earlier this week that if Islam loses that fight, he wouldn't give the opportunity for Islam to fight for his belt again. Is that something you'd bypass? Because that seems like such a big fight to make.
I mean, this is all talk.
Speculative.
You know what I mean? Yeah, exactly.
But I imagine that's a fight you guys would want to make at some point. I mean, just the magnitude
sure.
of it.
I mean, I'd make that fight tomorrow.
Islam's a southpaw, so he's going to probably throw body kicks to keep his arms busy, keep the distance, move, feint, maybe use some judo to take him down and try to get him to the ground and try to submit him. But, you know, once again, like I have to see, you know, I have to see what Islam does to JDM. But, you know, I know the one thing that's the factor is that Ilia is always going to focus on getting to the right spot.
Get down, I think Islam is very good with defense and with distance. If he's close, he's grappling. He's not staying in that brawling zone that Topuria loves. If he's within grabbing your range, he's grabbing you. And I don't care if Topuria is able to defend the first or second takedown. Islam's going to keep you there. He's going to push you on the cage. If I'm in Islam's corner, that's what I'm doing. I'm keeping him there, especially for the first, second, third round, trying to initiate that.
Islam Makhachev just revealed something that's already stirring up the UFC world. He wants to fight Ilia Topuria. No teasing, no vague hints. He made his interest in that fight clear, and it wasn't just some offhand comment. Makhachev sees the Topuria matchup as more than just another title defense. For him, it's a calculated move, and based on how he explained it, it's tied directly to what's going on with the UFC pound-for-pound rankings.
But obviously, have you guys seen the rankings? Obviously, the #1 spot goes to Islam, which is then going to have us something to debate. Should have it been Ilia? Or are we responsible enough to resist Errol Hawani's favorite term, the recency bias, and keep Islam on top? Wrong, wrong, and wrong. And guys, I was right there with you. I also thought that it would be Islam. They gave it to Topuria. Now, it wouldn't have been big news if they gave it to Islam. It would have been a talking point. It would have been just something that I might have come over here today and I might have discussed with you, and I might not have. Instead, it's my lead story. They gave it to Ilia. They put Ilia over Islam.
Они хотели, чтобы Ислам поднялся. Они хотели из Топурию чемпиона в 70 килограмм сделать. Это не потому, что Ислам хочет наверх подняться, а потому, что они хотят его чемпионом там видеть. Потому что они думают, что он будет продавать бои.
Слушай, не отказываясь от того.
Ислам не хочет отказываться, он хочет подраться.
When asked how he felt about being suddenly dropped from the top spot in the pound-for-pound rankings, Islam didn't seem fazed. Instead of getting emotional, he pointed straight to the marketing machine behind the UFC. According to him, this wasn't a snub, it was a strategy. The UFC, in his view, deliberately shook things up to create hype. That shakeup, he believes, wasn't random. It was designed to build more attention around a specific fight, him versus Topuria. Makhachev views it as part of a larger picture. He knows fans are already curious about a possible clash between him and Topuria. The UFC moving him off the top spot while placing more spotlight on Topuria seems like a setup. And rather than push back or criticize the decision, he's leaning into it. He's ready to fight for that #1 spot again, and Topuria is the target he has in mind to prove he deserves it.
I mean, we see what happens, you know, if he does that on the run that he's doing. I mean, it's kind of hard to deny that, you know, and that would be a freaking huge super fight. And with him having the punching power he has is just unreal, bro. So you can't count him out or whatever in anything. But I mean, who's to say? You know, that's not my job. I mean, if he goes up, like, he goes up. You know, he's his man. You know, do I want that fight back? 100%. But you know, I can't be like, hey, stay down here, blah blah blah, and cry about it. So at the end of the day, if he does that, which he probably deserves it. Not probably. He deserves it. So I think that would be a fun fight, too. I think that it'd be super interesting if that fight ever was booked.
Following Islam Makhachev's reveal, the UFC community hasn't wasted a second. Predictions and reactions are already pouring in. One of the first to weigh in is Dustin Poirier, and he's not exactly sold on the idea of Topuria making that leap just yet. When asked who should be next for Ilia, Poirier didn't hesitate to bring up the chaos at the top of the lightweight division. According to him, 155 has always been tricky, with too many contenders and not enough clarity. He tossed around names like Justin Gaethje as potential opponents, but was quick to draw a line when it came to Islam Makhachev. Poirier sees the idea of Topuria jumping straight into a fight with Islam as a stretch. He acknowledged Topuria's knockout power and sharp technique, but there's a big factor that can't be ignored: size. Poirier pointed out that while Ilia is dangerous, he's never faced someone as big and dominant in wrestling as Islam. The jump from featherweight to Islam's world at lightweight isn't something to take lightly. Even though Poirier admitted that Topuria has the tools to knock out anyone from featherweight all the way up to welterweight, he still believes there's a gap when it comes to experience. That's why, in his opinion, Ilia should stick to defending his featherweight title a few more times before any real talk of a super fight with Makhachev starts heating up.
Who do you think should be next for Ilia?
Who should be next for Ilia? 55 has always been so cloudy at the top. Maybe Gaethje. I think him going to 170 to fight Islam, if Islam wins, is a stretch. You know, Islam's big, man. I've never seen Ilia in person, but he seems smaller. I know obviously he can knock anyone out. I do think if they fight, Ilia can knock anybody out from 45 to 170. He has the skills, the power, the technique, and but we've just never seen him in there with somebody that big and somebody with that caliber of wrestling. But I think he should defend the 55 title a few times before that's talked about. We'll see.
Chael Sonnen took things in a different direction, focusing less on Ilia's readiness and more on whether the fight could even happen at all. And according to Sonnen, fans might want to pump the brakes on the idea of Makhachev versus Topuria. Chael didn't question Ilia's skills or Islam's dominance. Instead, he raised a more practical obstacle: weight. For him, the real issue is whether Islam will even stay at lightweight. Sonnen believes Islam's days at 155 are numbered, and not because of a lack of competition, but because making that weight is just too brutal for him now. Sonnen pointed out that Makhachev has openly struggled with cutting down to 155. In his view, Islam's toughest battle isn't in the octagon, it's with the scale. And if Islam starts fighting successfully at 170, Sonnen believes there's almost no chance he ever comes back down. That means the dream matchup with Ilia might never leave fantasy. Sonnen thinks the only way that fight could realistically happen is if Islam loses at welterweight. Otherwise, if Islam becomes champion in the higher weight class, a clash with Topuria would drift further and further out of reach. From Sonnen's perspective, it's not about hype or ability, it's about timing and the brutal demands of making weight.
Islam returning to 155 is a real stretch for me. I think that Islam is going to be a lot like Ilia, which is, hey, this is great. Thank goodness I got here. Most unpleasant experience that Islam has had in the sport is just beating the scale at 155. I'm very confident in telling you guys, if Islam has success at 170 and becomes the champion, that whatever dreams you have of Islam versus Ilia haven't gotten closer, they got further apart. If you have a dream of seeing Islam versus Ilia, it's very unlikely, but the best way to get there would be if Islam was to lose at 170.
Demetrius Johnson added a whole different layer, one focused on strategy. Instead of dismissing the possibility of Makhachev versus Topuria, Johnson broke down how that matchup could actually play out inside the cage. For Johnson, the fight isn't just about size or hype, it's about positioning. He pointed out how Ilia Topuria thrives when he gets to his spot in a fight, the zone where he's comfortable, explosive, and dangerous. But Islam, with his suffocating control and cage IQ, is exactly the kind of fighter who doesn't let opponents find their rhythm. Johnson's view is that the story of this potential fight would come down to whether Ilia can reach that zone or whether Islam denies it completely.
It'll be Ilia trying to get to the right spot, and then Islam not let him get to that spot.
So who are you siding on that one with, if it's still the same opinion? Is it Islam?
I think it would be Islam, because I'll have to see, because I think Islam's going to approach it differently.
When asked to pick a side, Johnson leaned toward Makhachev, but it wasn't just a blind prediction. He explained that Islam wouldn't approach Topuria recklessly. As a southpaw, he'd use body kicks, feints, and calculated pressure to keep Topuria reacting. Johnson imagined Islam using judo trips or cage control to smother Ilia's power before it can explode. It wouldn't be a brawl, it would be a chess match on Islam's terms.
What do you reckon he'll do? What do you reckon Islam, like if you're Islam, do you just go in, try to figure out a way to get that, you know, get to the ground or get him up against the fence?
Well, Islam's a southpaw, so he's gonna probably throw body kicks to keep his arms busy, keep a distance, move, feint, maybe use some judo to take him down and try to get him to the ground and try to submit him. But you know, once again, like I have to see, you know, I have to see what Islam does at JDM. But you know, I know the one thing that's the factor is that Ilia is always going to focus on getting to the right spot and find his opponents. When he gets there, he's going to unload.
That said, Johnson didn't ignore Ilia's tenacity. He highlighted how Ilia adapts mid-fight and always finds a way to get back into his preferred position. That makes him dangerous for all 25 minutes. Still, Johnson kept circling back to the same point. Can Islam stop Ilia from reaching that space, or will he have to meet him there and risk getting clipped? It's the kind of tactical puzzle that makes this a true super fight.
Ilia can't get there, then he's going to figure out another way to get there. So the question is, how does everybody avoid that sweet spot against Ilia? That's the question, because Ilia is going to fight in a 25-minute fight. That's what it comes down to. And then you go from like, hey, how does Islam keep Ilia away from that spot, or does Islam meet him there? Right? There's so much, you know, that goes into it, and my brain is all over the place. So for me to give like a clear-cut answer, I just, you know, I'm just like, I'm running around in circles.
As for the fight happening at welterweight, Johnson wasn't too worried about the weight difference. He acknowledged that Ilia walks around heavy enough to make 170 realistic, and noted that Topuria's compact, powerful frame holds up against taller fighters. He even compared Ilia to Charles Oliveira, noting that while Charles has height, Ilia's thicker core might be even more functional.
But I like this. This is a different aspect to the fight, I guess. I love how you're able to break it down into that detail. Do you think the weight makes a significant difference to the fight? Like if it happens at welterweight, do you lean more to Islam just because of that increase in weight that he's going to have over Ilia?
Not honestly, no, not necessarily. No, I don't think so. Because I think Ilia will be 170. I mean, he walks on 174 from what I heard. So
you look big though at lightweight, man. You saw him next to Charles. He didn't look very big.
I mean, Charles is tall, right? Charles isn't a thick boy. If you look at Ilia Topuria's core, his core is thick. It's a functional core.
Johnson finished by saying what most fans are feeling. This would be a wild matchup. He didn't give a definitive winner, but laid out a blueprint of how both fighters could win, depending on execution. It's not just who hits harder, it's who controls the fight's rhythm and whether Islam can stop Ilia from finding that spark. After that tactical breakdown, Belal Muhammad jumped in with a sharp, focused prediction, and he didn't hold back. He gave credit where it was due, calling Ilia Topuria's finish over Charles Oliveira impressive, not just because of the knockout, but because Ilia predicted it and delivered. But Belal was more interested in what that win really means moving forward.
That Oliveira, it's a tough one, man. It's a tough one to go with. I don't know if it's vision problem or honestly, I'm going to say I think he's like blind or just has really bad vision, because every single one of those fights, he has to move forward. He has to be in your face. And you don't want to be in Topuria's face, who has shorter arms, who has heavier punches than him. I think he should have played it longer. And if you were going to be on the inside, you had to grapple. He initiated the grappling. He tried the grapple. I know he played bottom a little bit, but when Topuria let him up, it should have been back to grappling, playing that game, getting out of the round. You got to feel for his strength. Topuria did a beautiful job of slipping that cross and just reading him. He knew the jab cross hook was going to come. Oliveira is very simple with his...
Paul pointed out that while Topuria showed good takedown defense and some ground awareness against Oliveira, fighting Islam Makhachev is a different challenge entirely. He believes Islam would wouldn't just shoot once or twice. He'd chain his attempts, push Ilia to the fence, and control him for round after round. He explained that Islam fights smart. He avoids the chaotic mid-range where Ilia thrives. If Islam is close, he's grappling. If he's far, he's kicking. That kind of range control, Belal said, makes it hard for a power striker like Topuria to get into rhythm.
When I look at that matchup and I break it down, I think Islam is very good with defense and with distance. If he's close, he's grappling. He's not staying in that brawling zone that Topuria loves. If he's within grabbing your range, he's grabbing you. And I don't care if Topuria is able to defend the first or second takedown. Islam's going to keep you there. He's going to push you on the cage. If I'm in Islam's corner, that's what I'm doing. I'm keeping him there, especially for the first, second, third round, trying to initiate that takedown. Oliveira got the body lock pretty early. Islam is really good there with the trips, with the body locks, with the single legs there. I think he would have continued grappling there, and it would have been a lot more interesting. It would have definitely got past the first round, and we would have seen how Topuria held up. He didn't really need to show his cardio. That one's a fun one, man.
Belal added that while Ilia's power carried over at lightweight, Charles isn't the perfect test. He's been dropped in the past, and Belal wants to see Ilia against someone more durable before fully buying into his power at 155.
Last couple fights that he is comfortable on the feet. He's fought the shorter guy in Volkanovski, and he's played a little bit striking. He showed moments in that fight where he knocked him out with a head kick. And then the Dustin fight, he showed his boxing. He showed that he can hit on the feet. I think with Topuria, who does have really good grappling, really good wrestling, he's going to want to push Islam backwards, keeping Islam on his back foot, keeping Islam's against the cage where he's uncomfortable, and he's really good with his feinting. He doesn't really throw a lot of kicks. On the other side, Islam is really good with his kicks. If he mixes the kicks up low, body, high, Islam's not going to be in that boxing range.
Belal made it clear that Topuria is legit, but Islam is built to shut down fighters like him. If the fight were to happen, Belal believes Islam's pressure, defense, and pace would be too much, especially over 5 rounds. So with all these reactions coming in from fighters and analysts, one thing is clear. Everyone's already buzzing about a potential clash between Islam Makhachev and Ilia Topuria. It's the kind of matchup that gets fans talking, even if it's still just talk for now. Nothing is locked in yet, and a lot can change in this sport, but Islam seems more than ready. He's not just throwing names out for hype. This call out feels real. It feels like he's looking for a new mountain to climb, and Ilia might just be the one standing at the top. Let us know in the comments below if you think Islam versus Ilia will happen, and who you think would come out on top.